Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today we're going to be tackling human motivation.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but we're looking at it through the lens of a pretty influential theory, Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah, it really is. We're going to be looking at an excerpt from Maslow's 1943 paper, A Theory of Human Motivation.
Okay,
So hopefully by the end of this, we'll all have a better grasp on what makes us tick.
sounds good. I think you'll find this theory particularly interesting because when Maslow first proposed it, it was a pretty radical departure from how most people thought about motivation back then.
But really, in what way?
Well, you see, back in 1943, the dominant school of thought was behaviorism.
Oh yeah, right.
And behaviorism focused mainly on, observable behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the research was based on animal studies.
Right, like those classic experiments with rats running through mazes.
Exactly.
Or Pavlov's dogs,
Mhm.
salivating at the sound of the bell. Yeah, so the general belief was that, human behavior, just like animal behavior, was largely shaped by external factors.
Okay.
Things like rewards and punishments.
I see.
So it was all about these kind of like inputs and outputs. You know what I mean?
Right.
With less emphasis on what was happening internally, like those internal drives and desires.
Gotcha. So Maslow, he was basically saying, hold on a second. There's more to it than that.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
Yeah, he argued that humans are way more complex.
Mm.
He said we've got this innate drive to grow and to strive for something more than just basic survival.
Okay.
He really put humans at the center of his theory. He suggested that we're motivated by this hierarchy of needs and that each need sort of builds upon the one before it.
Oh, interesting. So I'm picturing like a pyramid, right?
Exactly, you got it.
Okay.
Maslow envisioned these needs as a pyramid with 5 levels.
5 levels. Okay.
At the very bottom,
Yeah.
we have the most fundamental needs. Those are the physiological ones,
Mm.
the absolute essentials for survival.
Right, like food, water, shelter.
Exactly. Air, sleep, all those things you can't live without.
So like if we imagine ourselves back in the, I don't know, the hunter-gatherer days, those physiological needs would be like front and center every day.
Absolutely. If those needs aren't met, nothing else really matters.
Makes sense.
But once those basic needs are taken care of, then a sense of security becomes super important. So that brings us to the second level. Safety needs.
Okay, safety needs.
So this is really about that desire for stability and protection.
Protection from what? Like wild animals?
Well, back then, yeah. Wild animals, the elements, maybe even other tribes.
Right.
But in today's world, those safety needs might translate into things like, financial security,
Sure.
job stability, having a safe neighborhood, or even access to healthcare.
Oh, yeah, that makes total sense.
So it's all about feeling secure enough to explore the world and connect with others, which leads us to the third level, love and belonging.
Ah, the need for connection. Well, we are social creatures after all.
That's right. And this level is all about those deep-seated desires for love, intimacy, and friendship.
Right, belonging to a family or a community, feeling like you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. It's that feeling of being accepted for who you are and having those strong social bonds that just make life richer.
For sure. So, as we move up this pyramid, what comes after that sense of belonging?
Well, as those needs for love and belonging are met, we start to crave something more,
Hmm?
something that speaks to our inner sense of worth. And that's where esteem needs come in, the fourth level of the hierarchy.
Okay, esteem needs. So this is where things get a little bit more complex.
You could say that. It's less about, those tangible needs and more about those internal drivers.
See.
This level is about feeling good about ourselves,
Okay.
having self-confidence,
Yeah.
and receiving recognition and respect from others.
So it's that desire for achievement,
Yeah.
for mastery, for feeling competent and respected in whatever you do.
Exactly. It's that feeling of, I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm good at this. And you're right. It often goes hand in hand with that desire for external validation.
Yeah, like knowing that other people recognize your value and your contributions.
Right?
This makes me wonder, like, what happens when those esteem needs are fulfilled? Is that when we finally reach the peak of the pyramid?
You're on the right track.
Yeah.
That's exactly where Maslow takes us next.
Right.
At the very top, we find self-actualization,
Okay.
the pinnacle of human motivation.
Self-actualization, it sounds almost mystical.
Well, it's definitely a profound concept.
Okay.
It's about becoming the best version of ourselves,
Hi.
reaching our full potential.
Back to you.
But what's really fascinating is that this level can look totally different for everyone.
Oh, I bet. I'm picturing, like, those individuals who just seem to be living their purpose, you know? Like
Yeah.
they're deeply passionate about what they do, whether they're artists or entrepreneurs or, humanitarians.
Mhm.
They have this drive that goes way beyond like external rewards or recognition.
Exactly. It's like they have this internal compass, a,
Hmm.
a desire to express themselves, to create, to contribute something meaningful.
Yeah.
And it's not about achieving some, perfect state of being. It's an ongoing journey of growth and self-discovery.
That's a good point. So we've got this pyramid, this hierarchy of needs,
Mhm.
but it's not just about climbing the ladder and reaching the top, is it?
You got it. Maslow was very clear that this wasn't a rigid step-by-step progression.
Okay.
It's not as simple as just checking off boxes and moving on.
So there's more to it than just, meeting those basic needs and then striving for self-actualization.
Absolutely. There are some nuances, some complexities that make this theory even richer.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about these nuances. This is where I think things get really interesting.
Well, for starters, one of the key concepts is something called prepotency.
Potency. Okay.
Basically means that those needs at the bottom of the pyramid, those physiological and safety needs,
Right.
they kind of have a stronger pull,
Yeah.
especially when they're lacking.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Like imagine you're lost in the wilderness,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Your main focus is going to be on finding food and shelter, not exactly pondering the meaning of life.
No, definitely not. Your survival instincts would kick in.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Even when those higher needs become more important, the lower ones don't just disappear.
Right.
They're always there kind of simmering in the background.
Okay.
If something happens and your safety or security is suddenly threatened,
Yeah.
those basic needs can come roaring right back to the forefront.
So it's not like climbing a ladder and you just leave each rung behind as you go up.
For real.
It's more like you're juggling. You might be focused on those higher level balls, but you're still aware of the others and you're ready to catch them if they drop.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It really highlights the dynamic nature of these needs.
It does. It does. So we've talked about prepotency. What were those other nuances you mentioned?
Well, Maslow himself actually noticed that there were some exceptions to his own model.
Oh, really? Like what?
Yeah, he recognized that, this hierarchy, it wasn't like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Sure. I mean, real life is messy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For example, he observed that some people might actually prioritize esteem needs over love and belonging.
Interesting.
They might believe that if they achieve success or gain recognition,
Yeah.
that'll make them more lovable.
Oh, so it's almost like they're trying to make themselves more, I don't know, more worthy of connection by focusing on achievement.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're trying to build themselves up in order to attract others.
It makes you think about like all the different ways people try to meet those needs for love and connection, right?
It really does. And then you have those individuals like artists, for example, who seem to put self-actualization above everything else.
Yeah.
Like they're willing to even sacrifice their own safety or comfort in order to pursue their art.
Oh, yeah. You think about like the classic starving artist, right?
Exactly. It's like their need to create, to express themselves, it overrides those more basic needs.
That's pretty powerful. But I guess it also shows how these needs can sometimes be in conflict, right?
Yeah, for sure. And on the flip side, Maslow also observed that sometimes difficult life experiences,
Mm-hmm.
like trauma or extreme poverty,
Right.
could actually kind of dampen a person's aspirations.
Oh, that's sad, but I can see how that would happen.
Yeah, it's like those experiences, they create a sort of ceiling,
Yeah.
making it harder to envision those higher level needs, even if their basic needs are met.
Right. So it's like those early experiences can have a lasting impact on how people view their own potential.
They really can. But what's amazing is that even with these exceptions, Maslow's hierarchy, it gives us this incredibly powerful way to understand human behavior.
Absolutely. It helps us see like not just what people do, but why they do it. What's motivating them, what they're striving for.
Exactly. And that understanding it can be so helpful, whether we're talking about personal growth or relationships or even social change.
Oh, totally. I'm thinking about how understanding this hierarchy could help us be more empathetic,
Mhm.
more compassionate towards ourselves and towards others,
For sure.
because it helps us see those needs and desires as like a normal part of being human, not as like weaknesses or flaws.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that these needs are interconnected.
Right.
That those basic needs are met, it creates a more stable foundation for those higher aspirations to flourish.
That makes sense.
Maslow believed that fulfilling those basic needs, it was essential for healthy psychological development.
It makes me think about the importance of creating a society that actually supports those basic needs for everyone, like
Hmm.
access to healthcare, affordable housing, a living wage.
Yeah.
Those aren't just political issues.
Hmm.
Those are fundamental to human well-being.
I couldn't agree more. And Maslow, he actually went a step further.
Did he?
He talked about these like preconditions
Okay.
for need satisfaction.
What do you mean by preconditions?
Well, he was talking about things like freedom of speech, fairness, justice, access to information. He thought those things were essential for creating an environment where people could really thrive.
It's like those preconditions, they create the fertile soil where those needs can take root and grow.
Exactly. And if those elements are missing,
Yeah,
it's going to be much harder for people to reach their full potential.
that's a good point. So we've got these basic needs, we've got these preconditions. What else did Maslow talk about?
Well, he also emphasized this innate desire to know and understand, which he saw as separate from those basic needs, but equally powerful.
So it's not just about survival and security.
Mm.
It's also about this like inherent curiosity, this drive to explore, to learn, to figure things out.
Exactly. He considered this like a fundamental human need, just like needing food or shelter.
Mm.
And it really shapes how we prioritize and go after our needs.
So it's like we're literally wired for growth, for expansion, for understanding. It's part of what makes us human.
Right. And Maslow believed that this desire to know and understand, it was also closely tied to self-actualization. The more we learn, the more we grow in our understanding, the closer we get to reaching our full potential.
That's fascinating. It makes you realize just how multifaceted our motivations can be. It's rarely ever just one single need that's driving us.
You got it.
It's funny, as we've been talking about all this, it's really struck me that Maslow's theory isn't just about, figuring out what motivates us.
Mm.
It's almost like a guide, like a roadmap to
Yeah.
a more fulfilling life.
I think so too. It's like by understanding those different needs and making them a priority both for ourselves and for the people around us,
Right.
we can create the conditions,
Uh-huh.
for more happiness, more well-being.
I like that. And it makes you think about, how we design our lives, how we structure our societies,
Mhm.
even our workplaces. Are we really creating environments that support those fundamental needs
Yeah, that's a really important question.
for safety, connection, growth?
And it's something that Maslow was super passionate about.
Was he?
He really believed that understanding human motivation, it wasn't just some theoretical thing,
Right.
it was actually a key to building a better world.
That's cool. So it's
Yeah.
not about like creating some perfect utopia where everyone's self-actualized.
Right.
It's more about just recognizing, the human element in
Mhm.
everything we do.
Yeah, and remembering that those needs aren't static.
Oh, that's true.
They change over time.
Yeah.
We might revisit those needs at different points in our lives,
Mm.
depending on what's going on.
It's like they say, right, life is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. We're always evolving and changing.
Yeah.
And our needs, they reflect that.
They do. They do. And that's what I think is so cool about Maslow's theory.
Mhm.
It's not like a rigid set of rules.
Right.
It's more like a framework,
Mhm.
to help us understand just how complex human experience really is.
It is. And it can be a compass,
Mhm.
to help guide us towards a more fulfilling life.
Totally, both individually and collectively. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways you hope our listeners will remember?
Well, I think the biggest one is that we all have those innate needs,
Hmm.
those driving forces that shape what we do.
Right.
And then when those needs are met, it opens up the door for more creativity, more growth, more well-being.
I like that. It's about recognizing that those needs aren't like weaknesses or something to be ashamed of.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
part of what makes us human. And
Mhm.
fulfilling those needs, it's not selfish.
Right.
It's essential.
Yeah.
When we take care of ourselves,
Yeah.
we're actually better able to contribute to the world around us.
So it's a win-win. We get to feel good and we make a positive impact.
Exactly. And remember, it's an ongoing journey.
Yeah.
It's about continuously learning, growing and adapting
Hmm.
as our lives change.
Well, this has been such an amazing conversation about Maslow.
It has.
I hope everyone listening found it as thought-provoking as I did.
You too.
And, to all our listeners out there, keep exploring these fascinating parts of what makes us human.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Maslow's hierarchy can be a tool, to help you as you find your own path to fulfillment.
I hope so.
Until next time, everyone, keep on diving deep.